Hey, everybody, I'm Conrad, and welcome to another episode of Kicking It With, where I'm going to be here and I'm going to be chopping it up with none other than Junior Giscombe. Hey, Junior, how you doing?
I'm very well, comrade. How are you?
I'm much better now. I'm gonna let you in because I keep things 100. So this is the second time doing this, but it's
Right.
really like the third time, really, because I was supposed to do it today, but I came a day early, and I
Mm.
was waiting for Junior to join. Junior never joined, and I sent him a message, Junior, let me know when you want to reschedule. So Junior came back and said, "Well, I got you down for tomorrow," and I'm like, "Oh man, what have I done? I'm looking like a real idiot, amateur." Anyway, he was nice enough to say, "Okay, not a problem. We'll just do it tomorrow. We can have a chat about it, have a laugh about it." So
Of
that's what we've
course.
been doing.
Of course. Of course. It happens to all of us, man. Don't worry. It's all good.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even further, we just started this interview about 5 minutes ago, and I didn't even start recording it. So we're doing this all over again. I keep
He's
it
under
100
pressure,
on my
people.
show.
Under pressure.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the last time me and Junior sat down, we went to Selsden Park Hotel, which isn't too far from where I'm recording. And me and Junior had a very nice, civilized, swanky conversation where we sat down and we had a lovely cup of tea and we had a long conversation. And Junior actually gave me a great deal of information about the industry and all of the things he had been up to and his experiences. And I really enjoyed that. I had a great time. I really appreciate you giving me that opportunity to sit down and spend that much time with you because that was a blessing for me. So
It was a lovely day.
it was, it really
It
was.
was. It was.
So now I want to talk about how did you decide to share your song, Mama Used to Say, and bring Luciano in on it?
My daughter had multiple sclerosis, so I used to take her down to Jamaica maybe two, three times a year, spend maybe a month or so down there with her. And each time we'd go down, she'd say to me, "You never go to any of the studios. You know a lot of the artists down here, but you never actually go and meet up with them." And I said, "Well, if I do that, it's going to take away time
Yeah,
from you and I. And this time I wanted to spend with you, if it meant going to the park, if it meant going to various parts of Jamaica that you hadn't been to before, that I could
yeah,
drive you around so you could see things, get you out the car, sit in the chair, go on a beach." So no, I'm not doing it. And every time, comrade, this girl would be in my ear, "You need to do this, you need to make a reggae album, Dad. That's your foundation. That's where you." And I used to look at her, I used to look at her like, "Listen, girl, what is your problem?" Right? But she kept on and kept on. And before she passed, I thought to myself, you know what? She's most probably right. Because her idea was to take songs that I had written that had been successful in various countries around the world
yeah,
and underground tracks and redo them in a reggae style, but use reggae artists. So instead of just doing a Junior album of songs that he's done in reggae, it was more like do it with, as she put it, the kings and queens of reggae music.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
So for me, I had one of my cousins knew somebody who was working with Luciana,
Okay,
and he made the phone call. I spoke to Lucci and explained to him that like this was what I was going to do with this album and stuff, and that I was coming down to Jamaica. And when I got there, I got a phone call that come in at the studio, my friend. You know what I mean, that kind of thing. So I drove down and we went in and we did Mama Used to Say. It was a song that he loved as well, and also at the actual time he was going through an emotional period in his life. I think one of his sons had died, so he was in a different place. But the energy that we both seemed to be able to fuse just made that particular session just incredible. And it was after doing that, I came back. I had a demo of what we had done. I
hmm,
played it to her, and she was like, "I told you so. Listen to this. I told you so." It made me smile. Well, not very long after that, unfortunately, she passed. So it was like, I need to do this.
yeah,
So what I did was I then got in contact with Tabby Diamond from the Mighty Diamonds,
Yeah.
and Janet Kay, Carol Thompson, Stephen Marley, and just got in contact with everybody and told them what the project was, the inspiration behind the project,
Yeah.
and the songs that we were actually going to do. And everybody just seemed to be so up for it. And that was just, that really was the thing that did it for me, was the fact that like everybody that I spoke to fully understood and wanted to be a part of the project. So it took me about a year and a half to kind of like complete everything, because again, it was just before COVID that we started,
Yeah.
and COVID kind of held things up in terms of finishing the project and the mixes of the project and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I put Mama out, I think it was last year, just before, year before, I think it was, we put Mama out really just to test the waters and see whether or not people would gravitate to Mama used to say being done in the way that it was
Yeah.
being, you know,
Yeah.
right? And it was just incredible. I think we got something like 750,000 hits on the track, and that was what was the catalyst, and for me to say, you know what, I'm going to put out another single, going to do a video, and we're going to put the album out,
Oh wow.
and hopefully, you know, hopefully things will open up, and if they do, then it gives me the chance to come out and play live, and because some of the artists who I worked with live in England, it was one of those things whereby I'd like to have them on the show, like Paulette Tarja,
Oh, most
like
definitely.
Janet Kay, like Carol Thompson. You know, I just think that they're just phenomenal artists, and I'd like to be able to go out on the road and be able to come out with them.
Yeah, yeah. And deepest condolences, and I'm so sorry for your loss. And when I saw you post about it, it was just heartbreaking, you know. Just
I
deepest
think it's one
condolences.
of those, you know, Conrad, it's one of those things where we've been going through, I've been going through the multiple sclerosis journey for a very long time. And my daughter, when she contracted it, her mother passed 6 months afterwards. So
Oh man.
her mother felt like if she was the, if you like, the person that gave it to, it was a very difficult period.
Mm,
And for Janique, it was incredibly difficult because we spent 10 years together, not really doing in as much as myself, not really working in the way that I would have liked to have worked.
yeah,
But what it did do was it made me a better man and a better person, and gave me a much better standing about what I was doing and the industry I was in,
yeah,
my life. I have a lot of grandchildren, and I'm very blessed in that regard. I have 3 other children, and I'm very blessed in that regard too.
mm,
But Janique, because Janique and I, we basically lived together. So if she was moving, I was moving. If there was going to hospitals and things like that, I spent a lot of time reading during that period of time about MS
yeah.
and the effects and the various drugs. And it was like when she passed, you just, you know, you just kind of like put your hands up, that's it, and throw it all away. And it took me a good year before fully understanding that that wouldn't be what she would have wanted me
Yeah.
to be. So it was like, people say man up, you know, but it wasn't about manning up. It was about actually understanding that the loss that you've just had,
Yeah.
right, has devastated you to a point whereby you are finding it difficult to see outside of the box. My whole life had been seeing outside of the
Of
box,
course. Of course.
and that period was um, difficult because I felt I was in the box, and I didn't even want to get out of it. I just felt this is where I should be. I don't care anymore. I got to that,
Of course.
and
Of course.
made it like, you know, I wasn't working as much in terms of going out and doing live gigs. I was writing still and doing production work and whatever else. But if I'm being totally honest, my heart wasn't 100% in it,
Well,
right?
it couldn't
And
be, could it? You know, after that kind of devastation, you know, you have to heal, some kind of healing, and it takes time. So
and it did. It took some time, but it was the fact that she was never a person to give up. It wasn't, you know, I didn't live with somebody who was saying, woe is me.
Yeah.
I was living with somebody who's saying, "What's wrong with you?" You know what I'm saying? That's who I was living with. You
Yeah.
know, this person wasn't saying, I'd be down and I'd be like, I don't know if I should do this and do that. And she was just so infectious as an individual and as a person. And she so loved life. And regardless of where and how badly the MS was affecting her, you
Mhm.
know, we had, obviously you're having conversations about various things and whatever else, but she would never be down where she's saying, "Woe is me, why this, dad, and why that with me?"
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, "Oh, I've just accepted this," because she was a fighter. So it wasn't like if she accepted, but she, I think, felt that she didn't want me to feel that maybe you're not going to do the things you want to do and achieve what you want to do, dad.
Yeah.
I'd already said to her, I've achieved my dreams, and hopefully there will be more.
Oh
But
yeah.
I'd achieved my dreams as a young man, and now I was in a place whereby I had to deal with a situation that I was I knew about because of her mother having MS as well. So my journey with MS was over a 30-year period.
Mm.
So it was like understanding more, there was more depth to it. There was more, what could we do? How could we do it? What did we do the first time round? This is me. What did I do first time round
Yeah.
that I couldn't do again this time round?
Mm.
So we changed everything, diets, things in terms of exercising, in terms of all that. We totally changed and it changed me,
Okay.
but in a very positive way, though.
Good.
It didn't change me in a way whereby I can't. At first, no, I couldn't really speak about Janique, but like now, I speak about her all the time. We have a laugh. You're around me all the time. You're watching me all the time. You're guiding me. If I make that move where I think, I'm going to go left, I can hear her in her in my little ear saying to me, that's wrong, Dad. It's wrong, right? You sit there like, listen, Janique, but
That's a
it's such
beautiful
a
thing, man.
beautiful, yeah, for me, it's become such a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
because her energy, her love, as I said, her love for life has been infectious, through this period where we are now with COVID,
Yeah.
and first year last year where none of us knew what was going on from day to day. None of us understood.
Absolutely.
We were being told all kinds of stories. We were Our industry as such closed completely down.
Yeah.
The amount of clubs that you knew in your mind, and venues that you knew in your mind wouldn't be around because of the fact of how things were going. And you started, but what it did do, it gave you the time, I think, for all of us to actually sit down and think about ourselves, and where we are in life and how our journey should be from
Yeah.
here on in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, well, I hope and pray that what it'll do is it'll give a greater appreciation to real talent and live music, and have people, support it a lot more than they were doing before, because the live music scene is a beautiful thing here in London and in the UK, as a matter of fact, and it just needs some more support.
So I think also the um, moving to, say, the British Collective with myself,
Yeah.
it was and still is more about showing young people that the collective truly is the foundation to move forward. And if we don't take that on board and still keep going on this singular road of
Ab-
I'm doing it right, Jack, then invariably you won't be doing all right. And you will start to understand that if you have the collective foundation, right, you can do all right, because you can always step back. You can
Absolutely.
always begin something again. You can always bring along, like in the album with Pinky Famous, who is a young dancehall DJ in Jamaica, that
Okay.
I heard and just thought, this girl, I need to have on something,
Yeah.
right? But you want to bring people forward from a foundation whereby they can be heard,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
they can move the whole thing forward. It's not about staying in your own little bubble. Do you
Yeah.
know? And it's all about me. My name's Junior Giscombe, and I've had hits, and I've done this, and I've done that. And you know, who's this person over here, and who's that person over? It was, you know, 1982, 83 when I first went to America in terms to promote. Mama used to say and tour, and I met musicians, writers, singers who were just so warm, Conrad,
Yeah.
and so open to bringing me in. And this little guy from England, you know, with this British accent, how you all doing? You all right? And it kind of, I suppose it was a bit like, and this is the guy who's done that song, you
That's
know?
all. Yeah, yeah.
Because it was like, you know, everybody thought Junior was American, right? And when I got to America in the beginning, it was like, this guy, right? He's speaking this. No, he ain't from England. He can't be from England. So it was,
No way.
yeah, it was such a an interesting time. But what it was that everybody, big, small, indifferent, showed love.
Yeah.
And they were showing love to their one another's, right? You know, they knew one another. They laughed together. They went out and they had a drink together. They would sit down and maybe go to a movie together. And we
I-
didn't have that in the UK at that time,
It's
you know?
funny.
So it was incredibly uplifting for me.
Yeah, it's rather interesting for me because
Mm.
I've spoken to and met a whole lot of legends, and the stories that they tell just seem like, okay, that was written for a movie that really didn't happen. You'd be surprised how many of them actually just hung out together and lived really close to each other, and they just
Yeah,
happened to end up being famous at the same time.
at the same time. And you know, that it is such a beautiful thing to be able to see, because in England we had the same kind of thing with the Lovers Rock
Yeah,
was going on at the time, and you know, the late 70s coming into the early 80s. And we knew everybody, we all knew one another. I'd worked with Janet Kay when just before she did Silly Games. We were working together. Carol I knew because she had signed, I think it was to Virgin
yeah,
Records,
yeah,
right? You know, various people like the Lynx band that I was a part of. And then you had um, Incognito, which came after Beggar and Co., who were
yep,
also part of
exactly. Uh-huh.
that. You get what I'm saying? So we
Light
all
of the world
knew
and all of that. Yeah.
Light of the World, and you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
High Tension,
that's
right?
it. Yep.
We were all based in London, north, west, south, and east, but we all knew one another and was making music at the same time. And most importantly, we were enjoying each other's music.
Yeah.
And the fact that, like Junior's mummy used to say, didn't sound like, um, let's say Lynx is You're Lying. Lynx didn't sound like Imaginations, you
Yeah.
know, Body Talk. Body Talk. So each band and each artist
That's
was doing something that was special to them.
absolutely.
And they were actually getting the feedback and the love from people, because it didn't sound like, it was like at the time, I would say it was like a revolution.
Oh,
Everybody from a musical standpoint, because
yeah.
we were all coming from the same base, which was reggae, but
Mhm.
we all moved that reggae into a soul R&B pop scenario.
It was
The
like a musical renaissance to what you guys were
Very
doing
much
back
so.
then. You know,
Very
it
much
was
so.
absolutely amazing. And it was so much good music at that time coming out. It was just absolutely incredible, you know.
You know, you're looking at Central Line, Walking into Sunshine and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying, right? You know, Kamel Hines and those guys. It was just amazing what was going on at the time, and the appreciation towards one another. Loose ends came a little bit after Mummy used to say, and all of that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, to this day, I'm still a Loose Ends fan. Do you know what
Matter
I'm
of fact,
saying? I'm a fan. It's not just that and I know the guys. It's not like if I don't know them and I don't speak to them. I'm just a fan of what they did when they were together. That feeling that they made you feel. The clubs where I used
yeah.
to go, and you would hear, you know, hanging on a string and all that kind of stuff, and it made you proud
Yeah.
too,
And
especially
actually,
in America.
you mentioned that. I was speaking to Carl a couple days ago, and he
Oh,
told
man,
me, he told me that you two are working together, that you're working with him. You're helping
that's
him with
right.
some stuff.
That's right. That's right, people. You'll be hearing that soon. Yeah, you'll be hearing that soon.
Yes, indeed. I can't wait for that. That's going to be absolutely a mind blowing
Oh,
thing. You and
I
Carl
think
again. Oh my goodness! Because you guys did some work initially with the collective and uh,
correct.
Omar and Donnie and all the rest
Noel
of the guys.
McCoy.
Noel
Yeah,
McCoy.
a whole bunch of
Yeah,
us. A whole bunch of us. Lee John was and
yeah,
Roachford.
yeah.
Um, was it Don Blackwood? Oh Christ, a whole host of us.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, the
yeah,
collective as a nucleus, which is, you know, Donny, Omar, Noel, and myself.
yeah.
But when it comes to recording, it's so widespan. Paul Johnson can be on a track, and
Mm,
Roach could be on another track, and Carl can be on another track, and Steve can be on it.
yeah.
We, it's, it was just really showing that we've understood that we need to pull together to be able to forge something that will stand. You
Yes,
can't break the bridge, if you know what I'm saying. I think
absolutely.
there's a bridge in Jamaica they call Flatbridge. And when you go over Flatbridge has been there since I think maybe like the 14th century, 13th century.
Wow.
Scientists have tried to understand how, right? And swimmers have gone down and they can't go as deep as the wall goes down. So it's like they can't understand how did these people do that and be able to
Mm,
go deep and also build this bridge that has stood the test of time.
yeah,
That used to be a thing for me when I first went to Jamaica. I used to think, look at that. It stood the test of time. They've not tried to tamper with it. Sometimes water goes too much, water comes on it, so you can't cross it. You've got to find another way.
yeah.
But it's standing, Conrad, and its foundation hasn't moved. As I said, scientists have gone down there and they've tried to tell you the reasons and the this and the that, and we know, but they know nothing. You know
Yes,
what I'm saying? And I'm not saying. Don't get me wrong when I say they don't know anything, but what I mean by all of that is that there was a foundation put there that was strong.
yeah, absolutely. Yes. And that's what's important. That's what's really
And for the
important.
foundation, everything else was built. You
So
know?
speaking of foundations, you're the foundation for Step Off. Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
Talk to me about Step Off because you've done something new with these younger people, and it's a dope song. Talk about how you
Thank
decided
you.
to get involved in that.
Step Off was a song that was like an underground song here in Holland, France, Germany. It was huge. I'd go over and I'd do different songs in those countries, and people be shouting out for Step Off, which
Yeah.
used to throw me. Step Off as a song was about gangs and stepping away from that gang mentality, stepping away from which can be incredibly difficult. And
Yeah.
I wanted to write something that portrayed that. I know how difficult it is, but I do believe that if you can step away from those kinds of environments, you're giving yourself a better chance of living the kind of life that you would love to live, opposed to the kind of life that would be dictated to you because you'd never be able to get out. You're so deeply within,
Yeah.
and the money is entrancing, the drugs is fantastic. You can sell them and make a hell of a lot of money and stuff like this. You can buy the latest clothes, you're going to get yourself the nicest car, you're going to have
Mhm.
a wonderful house. But all of these things can be taken away from you because your foundation, where you come from, is shaky.
Yes. Yes.
So for me, what it was just before the COVID came in,
Hmm.
I went around the country and was seeing that there was a hell of a lot of girl gangs.
Okay.
And you would speak to some of the girls, and you'd have that one who would sit at the back who would want to say something but didn't and waited until everybody had gone.
Yeah.
And then they'd come up to you behind the other girls' backs and say that this isn't truly what they want to do. They want to get out, but it's difficult because, you know, if I move out of this, they're going to come and they might harm my mother and they might harm my father or they might harm my little brother.
Yeah.
So it was talking to them that inspired me to do Step Off. and do it in the way that I did it, which was to have Pinky, to have Paulette Taja,
Yes.
to have these young kids dancing, to have the Jasmine, who is fantastic, a little 9-year-old that does the dancing as well.
Yeah.
It was bring in the kids so that they would at first see the dancing and go for that. But the adults would then be able to listen to what their children are listening to and fully understand and grasp it, so that when the child asks, it's, you know, what is he really saying, mum? What's he really saying about stepping off? You
Yeah.
know, step off into life is what he's saying.
Hmm.
Like, don't allow yourself to be trapped within anything where you can't step forward, where you're not confident enough to rely on yourself to be able to feed yourself, move yourself.
Yeah. And
That was the emphasis, and I needed young people to put that across.
well,
So,
it's
sorry, go
it's a great, great song, and the video
on.
was great. And I think it's really important that people understand, you have that concern, and you've gone out and you've reached out to these people, and you're doing something positive about it.
Thank you.
You've taken on the world is bigger than you, and you're doing something positive rather than just letting your platform not do something. I'm really pleased and proud and happy that you've embraced that and you're doing something to help the youth out.
It's important that I was a youth, you were, we all were, and we all did things that when we look back at them, you have to sit and you shake your head and you think, Christ, how did I get
Boy,
myself into that?
how did I
What
make it out of
made me,
that?
what made me do this? You know what I'm saying? Right? You know, so, and I was one of them too. So it wasn't like if I was talking from a position of imagining a scenario. I
Mm,
was really talking from a position of fully understanding that scenario
yeah.
and being one of those kids who said, you know what, I'm not going up the West End and going down to Carnaby Street and stealing some clothes and then selling it. I'm
Mhm.
not going to get the drugs anymore and furnish that out.
Yeah.
My mother was a Garvier, and my
Okay.
mother really knew herself, and she impressed upon us
Mhm.
that whole thing of understanding self
Yeah.
and not going against yourself for what other people would like you to do.
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's like saying, I've taught you that that's wrong, but even so, you know what, I'm still going to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Well, while I'm doing it, I know this is wrong and I shouldn't be doing this. So I would say to my friends, like, listen, let's meet up down in Clapham Common. They used to play a Wimpy bar down there. And I
Uh,
used to say to them, listen, I'll meet you all in the Wimpy bar. Nah, you're a this, you're a that. You don't want to come. You don't want to this. You don't want to that, man. Chat, you know. And it was a bit like, you know, at first it was he's he isn't down with us. He's not going to do what we're doing and everything else. My thing was very simple. You're my friend, and if I'm a friend to you, then you should understand that, like, I choose not to. I choose
yeah.
to go I choose to go and see some art. I choose to go to the theater. These were things that my friends didn't choose to do.
Yeah.
When bands would come in, I would go and watch bands play, right? My friends didn't want to do that. They wanted to go somewhere whereby they could make some money or sell some
Yeah.
drugs or whatever else. It didn't stop us from being friends, right? What it did do is it made them fully understand that, like, if they were going somewhere and they were going to do that kind of thing, they would turn around in the end, after about 2 years, they would turn around and say, this ain't for you, you know. Well,
Yeah.
you know what
Now
I'm
we
saying?
understand each other. Yeah.
They became the protectors,
Yeah.
right? Because they knew that, like, Junior isn't that, you know,
Yeah.
right? He's not that. And when I broke in music, they were my protectors. You
Yeah.
know, if I went out, they would be around, and it would be like, you know, people would want to push and whatever else, and they would stand firm and this, that, and the other. And
Yeah.
you know, it also showed me. My mum used to say when I was a kid, if you lay down with dogs, you get up with fleas.
That's for sure.
Right? And I used to sit there and I used to say, not everybody, mum, not everybody. Right? And she, just like you, she used to kill herself with laughter.
Yeah.
Not everybody. Well, I'm that not everybody guy.
Yeah.
So I lived that to know that, like, having a strong foundation, which was my family, right? I was the youngest of 8, right? You know, my mom and dad were especially my dad was very strict, right? But as I grew older, because being the youngest one, they allowed me more freedom than they ever allowed any of the other children.
Yeah.
And that made me want to not do the things like my brothers and sisters. You know, I didn't want to do a 9 to 5 job. I didn't want anybody telling me how I should live my life. I didn't want anybody instructing me on things whereby I couldn't actually find out for myself how it goes, what
Mhm.
it is. And I realized that then, like, you've got to find something that works for you.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah.
You know, so that was the beginnings of it.
Good, good. So, Junior, tell people where they can get in contact with you and where they can pick up the single so that it benefits you and the guys the most so that you can get the most money from it.
Well, I've done something different with this because what I'm doing is I'm throwing the single out so that everybody can hear the flavor of the album
Okay.
and the video so that they could see the same thing that I did with the Lucci and
Yeah.
with Change Is Gonna Come. So it's been 3
Yeah.
singles so far from the project. And you can come to my website, juniorgiscombe.co.uk. You can hear clips from the album. The album should be up within the next 3 weeks, right, for download. And that's where you'll get it. You'll also get a dub album, which is 8 to 9 tracks. Yep, 8 to 9 tracks from the album, but it's all in dub. And you can only get it from the website. And you know, that's where it's at. I just felt that like the music industry has changed so much, and so many people put their trust in things like streaming and you know these other avenues that everybody wants to be on, but
Yeah.
you're not actually making any money from doing that. You know, it all goes back to the record companies who own Spotify. You know, Spotify isn't this company that was put there independent from record companies, because the record companies are giving Spotify all of your catalogs.
That's right. Yep.
So, you know, for me, it was when I started to understand what that whole thing was about. My thing was I didn't want my work on Spotify at all, and managed to pull it. But when I did an album with CD Baby put everything everywhere,
Yeah.
and Spotify was one. So I get that, but that's not what it's about. It was about coming straight to the website. Come straight to Junior, people, and
That's
get it from the website.
Get it straight from the source, people.
Yeah.
So, like I tell you, get your nickels and your dimes together because the album is coming and there's so many bonus things going on with it. Go to his website, juniorgiscombe.co.uk, and get the album from Junior directly. Junior, I appreciate you giving me this time, man. I really appreciate talking to you. And definitely, we're going to do this again. You got any
Definitely.
words you want to leave the young people with before we go, man?
Hey, the only thing I can say to young people is step off in every form possible. Step off, right? You have been put in a vacuum at the present moment in time. And I know that you're all frustrated. And I know you can't wait to get back out there and dance and have that beer and just to maybe hug your mate, you
Yes.
know, and tell them that you love them. These are things that, like, you know, what I'm saying to you is step off. Once the door is open, step off. Be you, right? Challenge this world that we're living in. Challenge these politicians who talk to us
100%.
and try to divide us by putting things in place that doesn't really help us as people and divides us as people. We have been divided going all the way along. They've divided us now with color. They're dividing us now with COVID. They're dividing us now with taking the jab. We
Yeah.
have to stop and start recognizing that we fully are foundation. They're just at the top giving orders coming down. And we're not, I want young people to think through what's going on and for them to then make that move of change. So, you know, my whole thing has been from the beginning, if you look at it from the mama used to say
Yeah.
scenario, right, into the change is gonna come scenario, into now that change is stepping off, make that change, step off, don't go against what you know is correct, right? Don't allow people to infect your mind in a way that isn't positive towards your fellow man,
Yes.
because that's what this is all about. right? You know, it's all about loving. It's all about love. It's about loving your fellow man. It's about making sure that the lady that you have, you treat right. Forget the rubbish about calling women hoes and
Oh
bitches and stuff
no,
like
no,
this.
no.
Enough is enough. You
Yes.
know, we had a cycle of that, and enough is enough. Honor thy women, regardless, and show that. Right? We're now living in a time where all of a sudden they're talking about women and being accosted and whatever else. It's
Yes.
been going on for centuries. It's not something new.
No, it's not. It is
You
not.
know, so we need to, as young men coming through, listen to some of us older men who have made the mistakes and who do know right from wrong. Even if you're in that kind of, you're here, you're not really centered yet.
Yeah.
So that's what I would like to leave with you, Conrad. Let's love again.
And I agree. And I definitely will back that 100%. I've been telling people lately, be kind, love your fellow man, because that doesn't cost you anything,
Come Come on, it's so easy, Conrad. You know what I'm saying? It's
I'm,
just like, you just have to fully grasp that money ain't everything,
no, money
right?
will do you no good in the end, because you're still gonna be same broke the way you came in here.
Thank you. And as I always used to say to the kids, right? There is nothing that you see that you will leave with.
That is so true, man.
So you can have the fastest car and will enjoy it. You can have the biggest house, enjoy it. But when that day comes, even the clothes that you have on, you will not be leaving with it. So look at your fellow man in that way, right? And we can all move forward. But if we start looking at, and because the country that we live in is very much about class distinction and class
Yeah,
and
yeah,
who's working class and whose value is more than somebody else's value and whose worth is more than somebody else's worth. We need to kind of eradicate that way of thinking and fully grasp that each man is as important as the next man. I don't look at the road sweeper and say that he's less important than the doctor,
oh
because
my
as much
goodness.
as the doctor is there, if he doesn't sweep the streets, then there's a whole heap of rats, and then them rats are going to give me infestations. And
Yeah,
so I need him. I need the dustbin man. I
yes,
need the nurse. I need the doctor. I need the people in my life. But
absolutely.
I don't need them to feel that I'm better than you or you're better than me
For
because
sure,
of what you do.
for sure, absolutely. Junior, I appreciate you and thank you for spending time with me here on Kicking It With, and we will be talking again soon.
Definitely, man. When I get you the album, we'll get back to it, man,
We
right?
will do, definitely. And I'll show up at the right time.
Don't worry.
Thanks a lot, Junior. Take care,
Hey,
man.
man, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much, Conrad.
All right.